So, I mean, I know you can't really, and you don't want to put a limit on what people ask for, because everybody needs to have the opportunity to ask for it and make a case that it's a worthy investment in the community. So it is something that, and I'm sure future SPLOST committees will have the same discussion, gosh. I mean, it'd make your life simpler if you knew you only had 5 projects that you had to put money on, but,
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Vice
Okay,
Chair.
Mr. County Manager.
And I just wanted to also add, again, we do apologize for getting this to you all just this last minute, but things change real fast, such as one of the projects that's currently on the list, the chiller for the sheriff's office. Unfortunately, their chiller went out last week, so they had to replace that. So now that actual project has been taken care of.
it's a
AC,
part of a
HVAC.
heating and air conditioning
Yes.
unit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's just to my point, how things change real fast. That project was on the list and now it's been addressed. And then also I wanted to make you all aware about the SPLOST upcoming meeting. As Aaron indicated, this is just a projection. We have a meeting scheduled with the other municipalities. I scheduled on June 27th from 6 to 7 o'clock. And at that point, we'll be talking with the other cities about the negotiations.
If it's okay, I'm going to let Jeff talk to you for just a minute, but I'm going to preface what he says by saying.
Okay. Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Jeff can speak. Let me make a comment, and then I'm gonna ask. Yes.
My purse might be blocked.
Go, I'm gonna make a comment myself, and then I'm gonna let ex-Commissioner Calvin, if you give him a comment. We're on the end, Ms. Calvin, I just didn't see your hand raising.
It was my purse. I'm sorry.
Okay, but I wanna make a comment, then I'll ask Mr. Calvin, then we'll let Mr. Prine come up and let him speak too as well. The splash, as I know it is, it's like I call it it's a pot that we have in the community. And everybody in the community wants something to go in the pot. One person might want a chicken leg, one person might want a chicken wing. But it's popularity. It's you giving most everybody as you can what they may want or something in their communities, so they will feel good about going up and voting on November 8th for those projects. But before we even get there, you got to go around to the cities, and you got to negotiate with them about what they're gonna get from the splash, put on the ballot too as well. And so it's a few things that have to come together, and it has. And almost sometimes, we've been pretty close to not passing, but we have been blessed and it has passed. But it's always the first time. So we're trying to bring everybody into the room, let them talk about it, and feel good about on election day going in and help voting for it. Commissioner Calvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we going to have an opportunity to go through this list and make modifications? Or is this the final list?
No, this is a list a proposed list for you all, so you all are able to modify or make any changes that you all deem necessary.
Okay. There's some things on here I like, there's some things I don't like. I want to know when we're going to have an opportunity to add to or do something with this.
If I may. So I just wanted, I think this is a good time to give everyone an overview of the timeline we're looking at, because, ultimately the board decides what projects are going on to the ballot for the county. And so by all means, it's within your right and discretion.
So they proposed something, but it's going to come back to us to narrow it down or add to or whatever. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the timeline we're looking at here, we have to work backwards from the election date. All of this is controlled by statutory deadlines. So the first big deadline we're going to hit is July 19th. That is when the cities and the county have to have an IGA in place, and that IGA has to have the completed SPLOST project list for everyone, for the cities and for the county.
So we got to have this list narrowed down by the 19th, right?
At the absolute latest, that is our drop dead date. So what we've talked about tentatively was tonight's meeting with the SPLOST committee and the Board of Commissioners to discuss this. And then the board could schedule meetings on July 5th and July 12th to have additional work sessions to get comfortable with these, leading up to July 19th, which would be the date that the board finally approves the IGA with the finalized project list. So I would look towards July 12th. Perhaps is a great day for the commissioners to resolve amongst yourselves what this project list and what the priorities look like. That way we have a week leading into the actual meeting and everything is ready to go for final approval on that night. Because like I said, that's a drop dead date. We don't get a do-over. If we don't have an IGA and a finalized project list, we have to wait until the next election to do it. It could be the May election, right? It wouldn't have to be the next November election. But you're going to have a lot more voter engagement and turnout in November. So I would encourage you to get well settled with this by July 12th.
And the only thing I just wanted to add, commissioners, is that the committee, they took a lot of time to come up with the list, and sitting in with the committee, it was a diverse group of people who had different experiences, different years in the county, different understanding, and I really think the list is a great reflection for our county as a comprehensive list. I think it addressed a lot of needs that we need to get addressed here in the county, and I recognize you all's input. You know, you can make changes, but I just would not want to discount the time that they've taken to prepare this comprehensive list before you all. It is a reflection of 7 people that understand what our county needs to move forward.
And I appreciate the committees and all the work they did. One thing I'm concerned about, we spent, what, $2.2 million buying Cousins School 2 years ago. That school has driver services over there. It's got some other other operations over there. But it's also got a mold problem, and it needs to be renovated. And we bought it, and I think, Jeff, I think you put together the initial cost estimate on there. But we don't have anything on here about that. We need to take care of what we got before we start going into something new. I like the idea of paying off debt service. I like the idea of roads. I like some of the new stuff that's on here. But we've got some buildings that would need to be addressed. And we just don't need to let them sit there and deteriorate. That's a historic black high school. It don't need to be ignored. And it, sir? That's not enough. That's not enough.
If we could, just one speaker at a time, Commissioner Cowan, and then we go Commissioner DeMond.
We talked
Continue.
back then that it was gonna be, I think, Jeff, you told me 7 to 8 million in renovation.
Just one second.
Of course, I think you could do it cheaper than that, but that was 2 years ago, and the cost of materials have gone through the roof too. So I don't know, 7 or 8 million may be what it takes to renovate that. I don't know. And it may be that there'll be a design, but it's already got infrastructure over there. It's got water, sewer. You don't have to add any of that. We need to take care of what we got. I think that, and that's located in the city. It'll benefit the city. It'll benefit the county. Just something I was disappointed in not seeing it on here. And I hope that if we have an opportunity to change some stuff, that we are able to put that on here. That's all I've got. That's really everything else. I'm pretty good with everything, and I agree with it, but I'm pretty good with it.
Commissioner Mason, and then Commissioner Sanders.
I'm gonna say 2 things.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I was just gonna say, I noticed it was $1 million added to R.L. Cousins, possibly to be able to do some of the renovation that Commissioner Cowan referenced. I don't know if that would be enough to be able to take care of what we want. I know in the past, this board has talked about 10 million to be able to take care of that particular facility. So I know that was something that was raised to this board. So just wanted to reiterate what I stated earlier.
Yeah. If I may, I've got another engagement I have to be to, and I apologize for that. So I just want to briefly just say two things. We had the benefit of Jeff Prine this time, so that what's been recommended on this list, we feel comfortable about that it's covering the scope of what's being proposed. Whereas in 2016, we knew there was just no way that some of these things were going to get done with the amount of money like you're talking about right now with Cousins, okay? The other thing is, this committee was charged by the Board of Commissioners to come up with a list that they felt was representative of the citizenry and what they want. Ultimately, no, the Board of Commissioners has the final say on it. It's up to you what you guys do with the list. I will say and encourage you to maintain perspective on where all the funding for the county comes from, and that SPLOST is not the only place that you can go to fund some of these other things that need to be done. So with that, I do appreciate y'all's time. I appreciate the opportunity to serve, and feel free to reach out to me or anybody on the committee if you guys have any further
Thank you,
questions.
Mr. Michelle.
All right, thank you.
Are
I
there
think
more-
Jeff
are
can-
there
I'm
more,
sorry, he's been sitting here waiting for me to.
are there more questions
Thank you,
on the
Max.
board?
I ju-
Okay.
I think Jeff wanted me to mention about the deadline. If we are going to make some changes, we kind of need a deadline so we can be able to adhere to the timeline that we have before us.
Kind of building off that, what we were talking about is that one of the things that we were able to do with the committee is that as they were trying to balance the projects within the scope, they would say, well, if we dropped it down to this dollar value, can we feasibly do what do the project or enough of the project to make it feasible? So what I was saying to the county manager is that if we could set a deadline of when you guys could propose your edits, then that would give me an opportunity as your advisor to sit there and say, okay, well, if you did that, this is what you could feasibly, achieve with the project or not. And at least it gives you, what we don't want to do is make a decision and don't have, because one of the things we learned on this last one, and thankfully the economy allowed us to get the additional unallocated funds to rectify some of those budgets. If we hadn't have done that, we'd have some projects that would not have been completed or not started. So it's just something to consider. And from a timing perspective, that's just something we need to kind of put together, because to Aaron's point, what he's trying to tell us politely is July 19th he really needs it before July 19th. So considering maybe a work session prior to that, maybe on the 5th or 6th or something like that, where you guys could really, we could dig into this as much as you want to dig into it and work out of it that way. So I'll hush.
Thank you. And I guess this is to the board. Do we want to have a work session of sort on the 5th so we can hash out all the projects and everybody can kind of say how they want it, how they want the money spent, or the change we might want to make in these recommendations? So I guess we'll start with Commissioner Elwood. And that's the question. Demond?
Yes,
Ms. Sanders?
yes, but I had a question.
Yes.
When you finish.
Yes, I think so too, and can I make one comment real quick? I think in the time being, each commissioner should go through and identify the areas and any monies that could be allocated to one of these projects here, whether it's an increase or a reduction, however you want to do it. And then bring that back, be ready to discuss that on the work session so that we don't waste any time playing shuffle the numbers.
And this is just a thought. I know some of us are donating, some of our funds from ARPA to some of these individuals that's on here. Maybe we can deduct some of that from our 1 million. Some of us are donating some of these funds to these individuals. maybe some of that can be deducted. That's just a suggestion, just a suggestion. Because we've already given those funds to these individuals. That's a suggestion.
Well, I'll ask the attorney, but I'm careful about mixing funds.
No, not mixing. No, I'm not mixing. I'm saying
Okay.
some of us are already, like, for instance, we allocating funds to certain nonprofits that are on here.
Oh, okay.
And so maybe we can deduct what the amount that we're giving out of our
Oh,
ARPA
I see.
from this
I see
to
what you're
give some
saying.
money to go somewhere else. That's what I'm
Right.
saying,
Okay.
if that may help. Yeah.
So, I guess, County Manager, are we gonna set up a work session on the 5th?
Yes, we can schedule a work session on the 5th if that's the will of the body.
So I just want to make a comment. I agree with Commissioner Cowan concerning the historic Aura Cousin School. The fact that I think, I looked at the plans that I think Mr. Jeff had did a while back, and that was a very good plan. However, I just didn't want the entire school to be pushed down, because there's too much history in it. And I didn't want Costa to be moved, because I thought that's a very good nonprofit in our community, helps a lot of kids. And the rest of it, could be pushed down and made something new, maybe a community center, just as I think the Alumni Association had wanted. We could do that too as well. It would just, in the recreation, I also had mentioned, I don't know, maybe, I'm just maybe talking, maybe a swimming pool in there too as well, since we don't have one in the community. So this might be something pie in the sky. But I think that would be good for that particular area, and it be in line with what the community wants. So, and so should these other projects. So I believe that on the 5th, if I'm not mistaken, we'll make sure that Mr. Jeff knows the changes, if there are any changes, so that we can, and the county manager first, and then Mr. Jeff, I'm gonna get it right after a while, to make changes that the board may want concerning the splash, still on the splash ballot. And I'm just gonna say this, just because we make all these changes, do all the work, don't mean that the citizens of Newton County may not support it. But I think it may have a better chance. Commissioner Sanders.
It's just a last statement. Again, I want to thank the Splash Committee, because looking at some of these projects, you really saw the community and what's needed in various areas and what's lacking in certain areas. So I definitely want to thank you for that. And I hope, commissioners, that we also looking at that as well, because we do want this to pass. We want to make sure, and these are representing our taxpayers. So we definitely want to make sure that we take that into account, because they put it on there because that's what they want to see in the various communities.
Are there any more questions, comments?
No, if you all have the changes, if you would get it back to us, so we can have those. We can send out the spreadsheet, and you can kind of change the dollar amount, send it back to us.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Along the same lines, I was just going to encourage everyone not to wait until the 5th. If you know already some things that you'd like to see different, get those to the county manager, get those to Jeff and Baxter, and maybe it'd be possible to get some feedback and some collaboration beforehand. I'm just going to be doing everything possible to try to keep things moving quickly, because I do not want to see us having to rush at the last minute and feel like we had to make a poor decision because of it.
Anything else we need?
I was just gonna say, just kind of building on that, and I'll get with the county manager to propose, when he sends it out to you, kind of a deadline of when we would get that back from you, so that this gives me enough time to kind of take in your recommendations and make sure that at least I can be ready to make recommendations to you and say, well, if we did that, this is what you could expect. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure that whatever we do, whatever you guys do, obviously, that we do it in a way that you know clearly what the expectations would be with that dollar value. So,
Commissioner Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to echo the appreciation to the board, especially my representative, Pastor Kenneth. Thank you to all of you. It's, it doesn't come with great pay, but, and it's thankless sometimes, but we appreciate what you do. I know it was a labor of love, so we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Closing statement. I too would like to thank the board members, SPOSH board members who helped us, and we appreciate it. I know times that I come in, I was campaigning, and I came in looking a little rough and probably talking a little loud, but you know, I know where your heart was at, and we appreciate you and we thank you. And I'd like to thank our county interim manager too as well, because see, he was thinking about us too, you know, when he proposed the ones who didn't receive anything. And I look out and I understand stuff like that. And but we do know that ultimately it's the board's decision, and that's why we're gonna put all this stuff together and make recommendations back that we're gonna give to our interim county manager, and so we can move forward. Anything else? Well, and go ahead.
This has nothing to do with SPLOST, but, this has nothing to do with SPLOST. Okay, and Jarvis, you may not know this, but, Almond Turner was our assistant chief of police, retired, in 2019, I believe. He went on a family outing over in, Meridian, Mississippi, and was killed by his nephew. I've been trying to follow up on the case and everything, where we were. I got a message today from Chief Cotton, says his killer took the plea yesterday, was sentenced to 40 years for homicide without possibility of parole, 10 years on the gun charge with a possibility of parole. None of the family was allowed to have an opportunity to get to speak because obviously he took the plea deal, but just an update on that. I've been waiting to see what was going to happen on that, because Almond was he's probably one of my closest friends, and I really miss him every day. So just wanted to pass that on to everybody.
And since you're saying a few words, I'm gonna say something very quick. We both ran in District 4, and he was the only person of the years that I've been in District 4 who got more votes than me. And so we loved one another, but he told the gun and I didn't tote nothing. And so I knew that if I acted up, he would sure put me in jail if I did something wrong. But he was a good man and a good friend, and we love his family and his children. And I know where he's at. I've got to get there. So if there's nothing further, we adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn. Second. Third.